Right, so welcome back all our viewers back to the greatest morning show right here on the continent. Good morning, Africa. My name is David Attoh, and I'm sitting in for your regular host, Kwame, Owusu, Danso. I want to thank you for staying with us right from the morning till now, and we're here to do justice to the various stories on the front pages of the various daily papers across the country. All right, let me just do, because of time, let me just run along you the stories that we'll be looking at pretty soon right here with my panelists here. First of all, we go to look at the African stories. We'll be looking at the story from the Daily Graphic story on the page 5. African nations still encouraged to use AstraZeneca vaccine. That's from the Daily Graphic. We'll be looking at that story. It's an African story, and it's very, very important to the discussion. We'll also be looking at Eugene Ahin dragged to charge over numerous properties, but describes allegations as baseless. This is in the Daily Analyst newspaper. We'll be looking at this issue very much into details. We all know what we've been hearing around this particular gentleman is in charge of the communications at the presidency, and he's having some issues. We'll be looking at that pretty shortly. Then the biggest news in Ghana, all about the election 2020 petition hearing. Yesterday there was a massive ruling from the judges at the Supreme Court. So we'll be looking at those issues, and it's in the Times, the Ghanaian Times newspaper. It says, we can't compel EC chair to testify, Supreme Court rules. That's the story, the big story on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. We'll also be looking at, if we have much time, schools contract coronavirus in Accra. This is also another very big story, and it's embedded in the Inside newspaper. So we'll be looking at all these stories, plus others if we have more time. But the biggest stories has got to do with the election petition. My name is David Attoh. Let me just go straight, because of time, and introduce my guests as we do justice to the various headlines. I have been joined in the studios by the Member of Parliament for the Sanerugu constituency, ABF Husseini. Honorable, good morning. Do you still speak for the minority?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so is the MP for
it's not minority as such now, because we have parity in parliament. So there's no minority.
So there's no minority.
When you say group,
minority group. Okay, so it speaks for the minority group in parliament. I'm also here with Idrisu Salifu Protocol. It's a member of the New Patriotic Party's communication team. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mr. David.
All right. Let me start off with ABF Husseini. There's a story on the graphic newspaper, actually at page 5. It talks about the corona or COVID-19, and I want us to start from that angle. It says African nations still encouraged to use AstraZeneca vaccine. That's according to the graphic. Let me just give you a little breather on what the story actually seeks to tell us. It says African countries without the coronavirus variant dominant in South Africa should go ahead and use the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said on Thursday, while the World Health Organization suggested the vaccine even for countries with the variants circulating widely. So those are the issues that we want to look at this morning. The African countries have been urged or encouraged to use the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, and this is coming from the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, whilst the WHO is also encouraging African countries who do not have the South African variant to go ahead and use the said vaccine. That's AstraZeneca vaccine. Honorable, first of all, just let us start from home whilst we link it to the vaccines issue. You are a member of Parliament. What is happening in Parliament House whilst we, attach it to the story that we are about to do?
Okay, let me say good morning to your good self, to my brother, Mr. Protocol, your dedicated technical staff, and others, the viewers of the great Pan-Africa TV, and the indefatigable, evergreen Burkina people of the Sanaru constituency. I salute them every day of my life for their unparalleled, unquestionable level of integrity. There can be no doubt about the fact that this is a pandemic that has wreaked a lot of havoc across the length and breadth of the world. But to a very large extent, let me first and foremost indicate that global as it may be, the responses of individual countries has made the difference in many instances. George, there are people who are, for instance, quick to point at the US about the devastating level and the high incidence of the disease in that area, and say that this is a very developed country and perhaps the richest country in the world. But look at the numbers, because a lot of it boils down to the quality and caliber of leadership. You can no doubt see that in the US under President Donald Trump, he exhibited a lackadaisical attitude towards the coronavirus pandemic. First, he greeted it with disbelief and said that, oh, this is some China disease which will go in about 2 or 3 days, and failed to take the requisite action. And when we are talking about timing, very, very, very important. When, as leaders, you are required to take certain actions and you don't take those actions, the pandemic gets worse. And so that is what has happened in the US. The lackadaisical attitude and mindset of the leader contributed to the escalating pandemic, and also the large number of casualties. I was just looking today, I think the US has passed over 450,000 people who have lost their life to coronavirus. And so there can be no doubt the disease is escalating. Today, here in our system, we have our fair share of the dual recklessness on the part of some members of the public, and also the shambolic manner in which this government has also handled the pandemic. George, as we speak today, we don't have comprehensive testing that will give us an idea of just where the disease is. So you go to many communities, and people who are supposedly harboring the disease are there freely mingling with people, and the thing is spreading. George, today we don't have contact tracers. There are people who go with people to hospitals, they are tested positive, and those people just walk back to their homes free. Nothing happens. So they go back, probably infected, and go and infect more people.
But even your own colleagues in parliament.
Yes. You just asked me, I was just...
We're also involved in the same thing that you're talking about.
Yes, I was just going to come and zero in on that. So you have at that level of responsibility, and let me place on record that one of the things that have come in respect of this is about the availability of resources. The complaint has been that resources are not available. I want to say here and now that in the wake of the disease, in fact, at that time we were on recess, Parliament was recalled from recess to come, and we passed billions of Ghana cedis to aid in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. George, as we speak, there's no proper accountability for how those monies were spent. I remember a number of times we've asked the finance minister, Honorable Ken Oforiatta, to come and give a proper account. You remember even the closest we came was the semblance of that shoddy accounting that was done, that, oh, they just use some to provide dry food that were throwing at people and that kind of thing, and only 42 million and less was given. I'm talking of here of billions of Ghana cedis, not millions, billions of Ghana cedis, not to even count the 1 billion, okay? 1 billion we went and took from the IMF. If you convert that one into cedis, you are talking of further billions of Ghana cedis. What has happened to all the billions that we voted for this government to help us in the fight? John, schools have reopened. You just go to any of the schools. I'm challenging Pan-Africa. Take your cameras and go to the schools and see their extent of readiness to combat the disease. Some of them don't even have Veronica buckets, just even to wash their hands. We are not talking about even PPEs for frontline medical staff and all those things, which the health minister was confronted with even at the vetting in Parliament, and he woefully could not answer those questions. So you see, the lack of commitment of governments can even make the pandemic worse. Not to talk about certain reckless attitudes we had adopted. Look, what is happening today about the pandemic is a product of our behavior yesterday. Stretching back as to the time when even in the face of this, we had to do a needless registration exercise. And then hundreds of thousands of people congregated at police stations again to go and register. Then we went through the elections, campaigning. Hundreds and thousands of people congregating at the same place. What are you going to get? George, if you bring uninfested firewood to your house, why do you complain when you are visited by lizards? You brought it.
Right.
So, clearly, the manner in which we have approached this pandemic, both at the level of our personal responsibility, there are people who even believe that this disease doesn't even exist. And so they are reckless. I went home and even there were some people that I encountered, and I was in the process of even distributing masks, and they said, oh, this disease is you Accra people who have it, doesn't exist. So there are even people who are prepared to look you in the face and tell you that it doesn't exist.
But Honorable, before you even go further, government had imported, talking about the financial aspect of what you were saying, the government says they've imported over 300,000 vaccines into the country. That will be arriving between a later part of this year to close to March. What would you say? Because the story that we are looking at indicates that they are calling African countries to use, the AstraZeneca vaccine. I don't know which type of the vaccine that they are importing into the country.
Okay, George, I was just coming to that.
It's David.
Yes.
Before I take you to the Supreme Court.
Sorry. This one there, I was assassinating your name. Sorry. David, you see, and that's why I always talk about the difference between the quality of leadership. In Africa, we are talking of importing vaccines when other countries are already talking of seeing the vaccines to the end. Have you seen the difference? And I have always said it, that Africa is the richest continent, but our people are the poorest, the most disadvantaged, the most deprived, the most oppressed. These are some of the issues that I'm talking about. That is it only down to the issue of lack of resources, and actually I have indicated that it's not even the lack of resources. Africa is the richest continent, there can't be any doubt about it. But even beyond that, in our individual countries, is Ghana a poor country?
You are in parliament, so you should...
We are not a poor country.
Tell us.
Even the president of the republic himself, he said it when he was in opposition, that Ghana is not a poor country, that we are watched with resources. Sikanu wa. He himself said that. So we are not a poor country. So how come that for all this period that vaccines have been in the system, we are even still waiting till March? Between now and March, do you know the number of people who die? The number of people who contract the disease? And other issues that are going to come as a result of the inertia and lack of action that we are taking. So I think that there must have been some urgency about this matter. And to sit down and just say that, oh, Africa has to be the last to react and that all other nations should have vaccines before Africa. It's not acceptable. In the supreme interest of the well-being of our people, action should take priority to protect our people more than anything else. So if even there was some small amount of resources that government had, and I just indicated to you that we voted billions of Ghana cedis to this government to help in the fight. Where is the money? Part of that money could have gone into the procurement of these vaccines to help our people develop immunity against this dreaded disease. It hasn't happened. And the question I also want to ask is, why AstraZeneca?
Yeah.
There are so many vaccines that today are there, even some from China, from Russia, from others. And I notwithstanding the ideological divide between the West and Russia, it has been proven that the Russia vaccine, for instance, is about more than 90% effective. And they are cheaper. And their adaptability, especially to climate such as ours, is also very good. So why can't we also find some syndication that can help us to obtain some of these vaccines? At least to start. You don't need to say you must have 1 million vaccines before you start. David, if you had even 100,000 vaccines as a country, that takes its people serious. We could have procured even that quantum of vaccines and started the exercise so that it can give some insurance to our people that something is being done to on the this side to prevent and also stop the pandemic from running totally amok.
All right.
It's not being done.
Right.
So we are just sitting down, like when it happened at the first time, we were waiting for Jack Ma and some other people to make donations to us. So this vaccine too, we are waiting for donations. We can on our own.
All right. I'll come back to you, but let me
we deserve better.
Protocol. Now, your government, I'm saying your government because I'm of the NPP, says they've done the importation in the next couple of, next couple of weeks, by close of March somewhere. The vaccines, over 330 of them will be arriving in the country. Now we are being encouraged as a member of the African country to use this type of vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, Honorable made the mention of the fact that, look, isn't it a little bit too late? Others have concerned themselves with the amount of vaccines or doses that are coming into the country. Well over the threshold, well over 1 million vaccines. From where you sit, do you think that your government had done Ghanaians good in the management of COVID-19? And then let's zero down even into the acquisition of these vaccines. Do you think that you've done enough?
Yeah, good morning to you, good morning to my co-panelists, and let me also extend courtesies to your viewing public. Say good morning to them. I think that this particular topic of coronavirus every now and then has become a topical issue for discussion. I recall every time that I come to, as it were, participate in this particular paper review, definitely in one way or the other we would have to touch on the issue of the coronavirus. I think that the coronavirus has actually become a global pandemic which defy any sort of propaganda. I think it's about time that the NDC wake up to the realization that this business of trying to, as it were, play to the public gallery.
Haven't we gone beyond these issues of politics in the management of COVID-19?
If you were minded and if you were listening to Honorable ABA's submission, you would come to the conclusion that all that he sought to create was to put the whole issue into disarray, as if to suggest that the government of the Republic of Ghana, led by Nana Akufo-Addo, is not doing anything towards this particular pandemic. And if I am actually confronted with this particular kind of analysis, then I would also would also have to see how best I can point out what is it that the government have done in respect of this particular COVID-19. Now, there is something that, and of course, I was very happy when you pointed it out to him, that even in the floor of parliament, members of parliament who are supposed to be, people that we have elected into the legislative assembly to make laws for us. The issue of coronavirus, when the speaker of parliament intimated that, look, there were certain, MPs who were, as it were, dodging in what we call, doesn't want to, as it were, engage in the testing of the COVID, of those particular things. So you ask yourself, a high-ranking members within parliament, some of them are also doing this kind of thing. And he also even made mention of a situation where I think once upon a time in his constituency, where he had occasion to distribute nose masks to people.
Tamale.
Okay, fine. Yes, Tamale. Where he had occasion to distribute, PPEs or whatever to people, and they virtually wouldn't want to take it.
The whole president of Tanzania says COVID doesn't exist in Tanzania.
So that is the kind of perception that people have. So it means that while the solutions to it,
isn't that maybe perhaps government hasn't done enough? I keep saying that, look, let's make the disease, because that's what Ghanaians will understand. Let's make the whole situation a kind of something that will put fear. And when you talk about putting fear into people, people think that you are just trying to scare them. But that's the fact of the issue. if you have a whole, authority not speaking truth to the issues? Because we have known that experts have even come out to tell us that the numbers that are being churned out are not speaking specifically to the situation in Ghana here. So maybe perhaps the manner and scope in which government is handling the whole situation is where the source of worry comes in from.
You see, the government has been very, very, forthright in dealing with this particular pandemic. That is how come almost every week, the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Information Ministry, would have to meet the press and do what is called media press briefing, trying to expose what is it that the government are doing in trying to, as it were, curb this particular pandemic. Now, I will continue to mention that when this particular coronavirus, was first, came, the government of Ghana instituted certain measures to be able to ensure that once we go about our economic activities, there is that particular, program and activities that would be a mitigating factor in seeing how best, people can move about in terms of their economic activities. So for me, I think that it is not about trying to score cheap political points in terms of this, because it was not for nothing that when this coronavirus came, the government, through the
do you think that from your side, the topic we're having, do you think government has done well?
That is exactly what I'm trying to...
Of the vaccines, because we are being told that we have to wait till March. Meanwhile, in the various communities, now we are having so much spread within the communities. When are the vaccines coming? Other issues has got to do with who is to receive the vaccines first.
So you see that at the end of the day, my understanding is that these particular vaccines are supposed to come, I think, next month, which is supposed to be in excess of 350,000, in terms of quantity.
That's the
For
first
me,
dose.
yes, that is the first dose. Of course, there would, I don't know how the government is going to look in terms of the criteria through which, people would have to be, would benefit from this. But for me, at the end of the day, government has a particular plan to ensure that it, as it were, ensure that it, Ghanaians are able to be immunized based on the kind of factors that possibly they would want to come out with. But you see, I want to also make make this particular point forcefully that in the coronavirus, when we are confronted with this particular coronavirus, the government did not go to sleep. That is how come, and I was trying to indicate when maybe you were actually also making certain questions that interrupted me in one way or the other. The government ensured that people within the households stopped paying water bills. It was a classical move to ensure that this, because look, we needed water to be flowing so that at the end of the day we'll be able to use it to ensure that we wash our hands and all that. Go through all the necessary protocols and the rest. Again, because of the lockdown, government realized that people would definitely suffer in one way or the other. That is how come Greater Accra and then Kumasi, people were actually being fed. Now the frontline health workers were also not, spared in terms of the kind of packages that the government of the day actually
I will not let go you
understand
of this because, and I don't want us to even delve into that part of the discussion because we've had several issues. Even
so we would allow me when Kwame was speaking, you were interjecting. So
yes, because I want us to be educating the public.
Ghanaians will also know that this is what the government of Ghana has done.
And I'm saying that because of the purpose of this discussion, I want us to move from the interventions and deal more with the issues on discussion. We all know what the interventions did. Okay, there are a lot of issues with it. People have asked for government to render an account to the people of Ghana. We've not had that. So I always have a problem with the intervention. But I'm saying that at the back of that, the discussion that we're having is on the vaccines, so that you have enough time, to do the deliberations. That's my opinion. Okay,
I get you. So, like I was saying, again, the National Board for Small Scale Industries also came out to support businesses because of the adverse effect of the COVID-19 in terms of the economic issues. So at the end of the day, people were able to, as it were, benefit from this particular package such that they were able to, as it were, carry on with their economic activities. So for me, I think that at the end of the day, let us not try to make it look as if this particular pandemic is a political kind of a problem, for which reason people must try to gain political capital out of this.
Right.
For me, what we are actually witnessing is that, one, it has to do with attitudinal change.
Okay.
What is it that we can do for ourselves to ensure that we are not...
Right, at the back of that, there are 23 schools
virus
that have reported cases in Accra. And I want us to tie that into our discussion. That story is in the Insight newspaper. It says 23 schools contract coronavirus in Accra. About 23 schools in the Greater Accra region have recorded 56 cases of the coronavirus. And this was disclosed by the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kuma Abaji. So let's factor all those into the discussion.
Yes,
now, the schools are getting infected. In the Suleiman district alone, over 23 schools in Nakosombo are reported to have been recording cases. You know, are we handling the issue very well, looking at the surge in the cases?
My understanding is that, of course, I mean, even though we can describe it as isolated cases, but it does not necessarily mean that because it is an isolated case, it should just be rubbish, because every life matters in this particular country. I think that whether or not that particular issues has actually presented a case where there should be a lockdown with those particular identified schools, I don't have the technical eye to be able to, advise. So for me, I think that, a government health team would be able to assess the situation to determine whether or not those particular cases present, if you like, a very holistic approach, or if you like, a situation where that would call for the government to lock those particular schools down. Because my understanding is that those particular persons that were identified, were, quarantine, and people and students who were not infected are also going about their normal, teaching and learning processes. So for me, I think that at the end of the day, the government should continue to monitor schools, and of course, which I know it is. The government is doing, because even when the schools were to start, the government actually gave out certain PPEs to almost all the schools in the country. So for me, I think that it is a very laudable idea that the government is actually doing what it could to be able to stem this particular tide. So I think,
as we speak, there are a lot of schools that haven't received their portion of the PPE.
That baffles me, because I have not actually, gotten any information to the contrary.
But
because I think last 2 weeks, because last 2 weeks, Mr. KOD, I had that particular similar banter with him. Even I don't know whether because he promised he would also make inquiry into the kind of evidences that I was adducing, because I made reference to schools in the northern region, and he said he promised that he would be able to try to find out whether or not whatever I was saying was the right thing. All in all, government, don't forget that at the end of the day, everything would boils down to the resources that the government would be able to amass, vis-a-vis how it is actually going to ensure that the resources are actually being utilized for purposes of ensuring that this particular coronavirus issues are nipped in the bud.
Right.
So for me, these are some of the things that I believe the government are doing, which is in the right direction.
Right. All right, Honorable. Let's just do 2 minutes on this with you. Do you think that the schools should be shut down?
Currently, the schools, like any other segment of society, David, they are not isolated. They are part of this. And so if there's a general pandemic that is surging across the length and breadth of the country, expect that the schools will be affected. And especially, we are talking about the aggregation of hundreds and thousands of people at the same time. That is a potential spreader. And especially so as the measures. And that's why I said, David, I was throwing a challenge to Pan Africa TV. Take your cameras and go to some of the schools. The government is telling people, and that's the deception about this government.
In fact, we've done a couple of...
That is the deception about this government. They tell you things and you go on the field and check. You remember the health minister was even saying that La Hospital, Go and see the development there. They have shown it there. Go and see nothing. But they will come and paint very glorifying pictures about what is happening on the way. You go there, zero. They tell you that there's a story building they are put out there. You go there, even it's rabbits and antelopes who are having a jamboree there. Nothing is happening at the place. That is this government for you.
So you think that the school should
so look, you go there, the state of preparation is shabby. At best. In some of the there's absolutely nothing happening in those areas. And meanwhile, they are compared to European schools. And the children are left at the mercy. No wonder many parents are very reluctant to send their children to school. Frankly speaking, even I have to ask my child to stay home for some time. Because we are not sure what is going on. And you go to the atmosphere and you see that it's very, very threatening.
Right.
The extent of preparedness is not there for them to prevent this disease. And I think that, and David, I'm not the one saying it. I'm sure you heard the Ghana Medical Association, which even called for a lockdown. Yeah. But they're saying that in many of the schools and others, they should be closed. Because it's a potential spreader. And once somebody gets it, and we don't have the capacity to monitor closely, like I've said, now, how many schools have they done tests? David, to determine that this is the extent of the disease in any school, you have to conduct tests.
Yeah.
How many schools have the capacity to conduct tests?
But the schools have been fumigated.
Fumigation.
Yes.
You see, and that's why I've been saying that that is an area of colossal waste of money. This is an area where people are conniving to steal, what do you call it, COVID-19 money. Fumigation is for mosquitoes and rodents. It's not for COVID. You see,
Honorable,
when you go and fumigate,
yeah.
Who tells you that fumigation is to fight COVID?
The medical experts.
It doesn't fight. Fumigation doesn't fight COVID.
We challenge that anyway.
I'm telling you that fumigation itself doesn't fight COVID. At best, it can only be an accessory to help fight. It doesn't. Look, you come here and spray this place and leave and say that COVID will never enter this place. By the time you leave the door, COVID will be entering in their numbers. It is not so.
So that is
for me, the answer is no. These other PPEs, Veronica Becker's sanitizers, and those are the things that you make available to the schools. Go to the schools, as I said, and see whether you see on those things there.
Right.
They are not there, David. And then you come and tell us that you are fumigating the schools. And they will, when they finish, they will tell you the bill. They say that for this small number of schools, they have spent millions of Ghana cedis. Theft. They are stealing public resources. And I've said it that people who are stealing COVID money, they will never have peace on this earth and the year after.
All right, so you're still live on the morning show. My name is David Attoh. I'm sitting in for your regular morning show host, Kwame Owusu Danso. And I'm in studio with, and it's getting interesting here. I'm in studio with ABA Fuseni, MP for Sagnarigu, and then Idris Salifu Protocol is a member of the NPP's communication team. So let's jump straight to the biggest story in Ghana today. In fact, it's one of the biggest, but let me say it's the biggest story so far. Let's go to the Supreme Court. And the story we're looking at is captured in the page 15 of the Ghanaian Times. It says, we can't compel EC chair to testify. That's according to the Supreme Court. Now, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Jane Adukwe Mensah, cannot be compelled to mount the witness box to testify in the ongoing 2020 election petition, the Supreme Court has asserted. The court said it lacked the jurisdiction to invite Mrs. Mensah to give evidence because its mandate regarding the petition was limited. All right, so that's what precisely the Supreme Court seems to be telling the petitioner. They don't have the mandate to compel the respondent, the chairperson to the first respondent, to be in the witness box. And I would like to start that with you. Protocol, let's start with you on that one.
Yeah.
I'm sure you listened to the proceedings yesterday.
Yes,
yes.
I've been monitoring.
Yeah. So do you think that the verdicts given or the ruling is a long way to determine the outcome so far of the petition?
I think that the 2020 Supreme Court election petition, brought by His Excellency, the former president, for us, we think that it is an attempt to project himself and prepare him for 2024. Simplicity. Because, you see, if you listen to the optics of the NDC, you get the sense that what they are trying to do is to, is to appeal to the gullible supporters of them to ensure that they keep the tempo going, so that at the end of the day, they would throw it to the public out there that, look, you know, we are suffering, and for that matter, we are not getting justice and all that. I mean, all forces are you know, against us and all that. Now, because look, I believe if I finish my submission and Honorable ABA Fisini comes, the narration and the kind and the manner in which he would submit it, it will be as though, you know, they have a very perfect case. I think that, you know, not going into the nitty-gritties of the case itself because of the issue of sub judice, I think we believe that at the end of the day, the New Patriotic Party will triumph, because we believe that we won the elections. We won the elections hands down. And the NDC doesn't have any evidence to be able to back their claim. Now, I share that to say that they have not done good to the lead counsel, Chacho Chikata, in this particular regard. Because, of course,
who is the who? The Supreme Court? Or?
I'm referring to the NDC, because they have submitted a bad case to him instead of him advising them to just let it go. Because of the I don't know, but he decided to pursue a particular, you know, case that would not lead them anywhere. That is how come they are struggling as we have it today. And you see, if you go on social media and you read the narrations and the narratives coming from the NDC, as if to suggest that the High Court the Supreme Court justices are in favor of the respondents. Because look, you don't go to court with the idea of we are litigating this particular case because we want to win the moral suasion angle of it. That is not what the courts are set up to do. You don't, for example, if you want to say that by all means, you know, Jean Mensah must mount the witness box to adduce evidence. For what? Everything has to do with the law. What does the law say? Is it that, you know, at the end of the day, if Jean Mensah does not or doesn't elect to, as it were, mount the witness box, does it cause any sort of injury?
She had elected herself.
You understand?
She had elected herself.
That is how come I'm saying that I'm analyzing this particular issue with difficulty because of the sub judice. I don't want to go into the nitty-gritties of the case. That is how come I'm saying that we have to segregate the issue of playing to the public gallery and what the law says. Simplicity. You don't go to court wanting somebody to come and adduce evidence for you to build your case. You either want, look, the judicial system in Ghana is said to be adversarial, because they say that he that alleges must prove. So you don't come and say that, look, I believe I have won. Okay, what is your evidence? Let's call, I have my evidence, but I'm not, I have not actually brought my evidence, but I want to say that Jean Mensah is the one who should come and submit those evidence for the justices of the Supreme Court to pronounce on the matter. That for me is an issue that I cannot actually fathom.
Is she not at the foot? That's the chairperson of the first respondent. Is she not at the center of this whole, you know, petition? What prevents her from, you know, being in the box? And that's the question that ordinary Ghanaians seem to be asking.
So that question is not within it's not within the idea of the legal system. If the NDC intended to kind of wanting to, as it were, call on her for her to come and maybe submit certain evidences or make certain inquiries from her, I don't think it is the law court that should be the actual forum. There are other forums which you can ask. For example, through Parliament, through the parliamentary proceedings, you can You can hold her before the parliamentary chamber for her to come and, as it were, render an account as to what transpired during the 2020 election. So maybe through that, you are able to, as it were, get the nitty-gritties of the issues. But you don't want to force her, or you don't want to build your case based on what you want her to come and give you the evidence. The truth of the matter is that, and I was very perplexed when when Asiedu Nketia was in the witness box, when the Supreme Court justices wanted to even find out from him whether or not what was the figure, what was your collated figure that you are holding. Asiedu Nketia said he did not come to the court with those particular figures. So you see, at the end of the day, if you look at and you continue to monitor the narrations,
because he also assigned a reason why he gave that answer, if you remember. This is a platform for us to educate.
No, he said
there was a reason he gave, that they are not in court to challenge per se. We're just trying to quote portions of what he said. That they are not there to challenge the numbers or the those numbers, if I should put it that way. They are there to challenge the constitutional errors that the chairperson of the first respondent committed. That is the essence of the case in court. Because I think he gave guidance, sidelines as to why he's not giving out the figure. That they are not they don't call the elections, but there's a body mandated to do the declaration, and that's the beef that they have.
So you see, it doesn't still answer my question. The issue is that if you claim, because see, the NDC continues to even give series of narrations at a particular point in time. You are not even you don't know what is it that they are looking out for. First of all, they said they have won the elections. They moved from winning the elections to saying that the elections has been rigged in favor of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. They moved from there and said that they needed a runoff. So you see, at the end of the day, when they presented their case to the Supreme Court, there were certain even issues that they did not even add to their petition, because there was that particular 300,000 figure that strangely transmogrified into the tally.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they didn't even mention anything to that effect. So for me, politics, let's just separate politics and law and try to understand that if you actually want to submit yourself to the law, you have to make sure that you have your evidence, you are able to go through the rigors of the law and ensure that all those particular issues that you are raising are genuine. You don't want to appeal to the conscience of the public and wanting the public to come to
isn't
it
it just natural justice that if somebody is at the helm of affairs, and I also have a problem with these issues, people talking about morality, human rights and all those things. Isn't it just a natural justice or natural fairness that, look, this guy was at the helm of the 2020 presidential or the general elections. He's the main witness to the petition at the Supreme Court. Wouldn't it be wise, and I'm using my words carefully, advisedly, because that's the, and we speak for the masses. If you speak to the ordinary Ghanaian, the question that people are really brewing inside people, wouldn't it be natural fairness or justice to have the first respondent appear in the witness box to tell Ghanaians what she knows about the whole, petition? Isn't it just naturally fair?
It depends on how strong your case is. That would definitely compel the electoral commissioner to also want to mount a defense. Let me give you a classical example. In 2013, when we sent the election to the Supreme Court, it was how His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia gave evidence, very overwhelming evidence, that naturally compelled the electoral commissioner as at that time to mount the witness box to defend him, to defend the electoral commission itself. So for us, we think that, for example, if you look at the 2013 election petition, the New Patriotic Party demonstrated that there were places that were overvoting. We brought a huge chunk of pink sheets to the electoral committee, to the Supreme Court justices, saying or praying to the court that these are our averments, that should you consider this particular pink sheets based on the evidence of the pink sheets, they were overvoting, etc., etc. If you are able to come to terms with our thinking and you allow those votes and you do the final aggregation, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo would win. This was a watertight evidence that we gave to the justices of the Supreme Court. That is how come that the electoral commissioner felt that it was the need for him to to also mount the witness box to be able to adduce evidence to the contrary. That is how come, and something very, very strange is happening. And the question is, if you are minded, as at that time, as at the 2013 election petition, if you look at the way and manner the proceedings were going, you would notice that at every point in time where the Supreme Court justices would have to make a ruling on a particular matter, you would hear some other justices dissenting and others are upholding to those particular things. Are you hearing those particular dissenting views in this particular 2020 elections? That should tell you that, as a reasonable person, that should tell you that the NDC is simply, doesn't have a case, and for that matter, they are engaged in theatricals. That for me is what is actually being played as we speak now.
Right.
So in fact, I think that I believe that the New Patriotic Party won these elections hands down in excess of over 500,000.
That is yet for
votes.
the court. That is yet for the court to decide. So
500,000 votes
the court will decide that situation. Now, Honorable, let me come to you now. Your side, that's your former flag bearer, is still in court, but has subpoenaed the chairperson of the first respondent, in an attempt to get her to mount the witness box. Where does this situation leave the petitioner?
Okay, first of all, I think that is not only the relief. I'm sure
Yes.
you must have also heard that there's an application for a review.
A review for the ruling.
Of the judgment, the ruling that
Yeah.
was passed by the Supreme Court. I also want to just say before I go into this that I believe that the discussion will be limited to the judgment that has been passed, so that you don't venture into areas where you could fall sub judice. So let me say, first and foremost, let me correct some misrepresentations by my brother Protocol, that the MPP in the 2013 election petition hearing, they never went with their figures to the court. What they contested was data they had scored from the electoral commission, and they took to court. So let me make a clear distinction. The MPP never went with their assembled, what they collated, their pinches and others, on the basis of which they claimed they had won the election. They went there pointing out what they believe was overvoting, some constitutional infractions, and those other things. So let them get the case clear. And let me make it clear up initial. And I've even heard people who are supposed to be learned making this very abysmal error about this petition. David, let it be understood clearly and unmistakably that the NDC did not go to court with its figures. Okay? The NDC did not go to court with figures that we had obtained from the police stations. And we did that. We got figures from the police stations. We got pictures and others. We did a collation. But our collation is not the subject matter for arbitration in the courts. The subject matter of arbitration in the court, which informs our petition, is that, one, the chairperson of the electoral commission as the returning officer engaged in constitutional infractions, made a wrong declaration, and so it is her declaration that is in court, not NDC figures. So you don't come and ask NDC, go and bring your figures. The NDC has no duty before this court to produce figures of what it has compiled. Why? Is let anybody show me the constitutional mandate that has been conferred on the NDC to collate and declare results. has the NDC been given a constitutional mandate to collate and declare resource. So the duty now is on the one on whom the constitution gives the mandate to collate and declare resource. And those resources were so collated and so declared. So why we are in court should be understood without any iota of doubt. So those who are making those kind of, excuse me to use the word, sometimes it's infantile. That argument doesn't wash. It's not for the NDC to provide its figures. That is not the subject matter of what is before the court. We are before court to challenge a declaration. A declaration so made by the person who is constitutionally mandated. And it is only one person who is constitutionally mandated. Madam Jean Adukwe Mensah, as the returning officer of the presidential election. She's the only person. So let that be understood abundantly clear. That is what the issues are saying. And what is the crux of our argument? That she made a declaration on the 9th of December. A declaration we feel is a violation of the Constitution of this Republic, specifically Article 63(3), which indicates that a candidate can only be declared if you cross the 50% threshold, 50% plus 1. And that what she declared on that day did not meet the terms of Article 63(3). That is what is before the court. So who is talking about NDC to go and bring their figures? Where is it coming from? That's what I'm saying, that you see, when you can't carry a load, you blame your head part. They are finding the argument, they can, because that argument is clear. Because even the electoral commission chairperson herself admitted that there were errors with the declaration. And David, I want you to take a calculator and work out what she declared on that day. The 30,454,000 what do you call it, valid votes versus Nana Akufo-Addo's 6.7 million. Go and do that workout. She declared 51.59. Do that simple mathematics. You do that simple mathematics and see what you get.
I'm not giving him calculator.
I said, he has a calculator on his phone. You yourself, you can even do the calculation.
I can do it.
Do it. I'm sure you have done it. You know the answer. The answer will not give you 51.59%. That's declared for Nana Akufo-Addo. It will give you 50.09%. Okay? And she herself argued that, it excluded Techima South resource. Is that not the case? And Techima South has 128,018 votes. And if they added all the Techima South votes to President Mama, it will not change the outcome. Is that not what she said? Go and add Techima South. And Nana Akufo-Addo comes out to 49.6%. He doesn't get the 50% of the vote.
You see, Mr. David.
So, right. I'm asking you to do it.
Do
the calculation. You do the calculation, what was declared on the 9th of December. Go and do the calculation and see. So the NDC's case is that nobody crossed the constitutional threshold. And that is why we are waiting for the court to determine.
All right.
Okay, so nobody should go and bring NDC, go and bring your resource. It doesn't arise.
Right.
David, Jean Adukwe Mensah, my brother, I feel so terribly ashamed in this country where Ghana, our electoral commission had become an institution where people were coming from all over to come and learn. Today, this woman, just by one election, has killed everything. One election, 6 different results. Correcting the corrections and revising the corrections. From the 9th, the figure was wrong. You corrected, went to the 10th, corrected. My brother. So look, if I were here, and that's what I'm saying, should we be compelling Jean Mensah to testify? See, on her own volition, should have said that even people didn't want to testify. Look, me, because of my integrity and other things at stake, I want to testify. I want to come and tell the whole world that I have nothing to hide. I will tell the truth and say it as it is. And let people know the work that I did. This is the work she did. She should feel honored to testify about the work she herself did. They are not asking her to come and testify about the work somebody did. This is your own work. Why are you running away from your own work? If you haven't stolen, David, you run in a market.
All right.
Okay. David, you can. So I think it is very, very important for all of us to understand what it is. And what we call accountability. I heard him say that there are other ways in which you can demand accountability. Certainly, there are other ways in which you can demand accountability. But I want to ask him, is the court not one of the ways you can demand accountability?
Right.
Mr. Protocol, my brother.
It is.
So why is he running away from embracing that? Once that opportunity has been given to you, take it. If you have nothing to hide.
All right.
You see, they can't be sacking you in the evening and you'll be greeting good night.
All right.
Okay. You have stayed, you're welcome. So I am just indicating that for me, this would have been one of the clearest ways in which we would have set this matter to rest. If she had, even on her own, without even the promptings of anybody, volunteered to testify. So that everybody will hear from the horse's own mouth. How come that this declaration was made on the 9th of December? The changes that were made on the 10th, how did the changes come? She will explain. She herself can tell us, can explain it better than anybody. So that we better appreciate what went into the declaration that we are all talking about. So I am amazed that even by herself, she has not elected to assume that decision. And David, this judgment has been passed, and I'm sure we can say something about this. You remember when at the commencement of the case, and let me salute Chachi Chukata. I wish if I have a son again, I will name him after Chachi Chukata. This man is a legal genius. My brother, not only his eloquence is amazing, his depth of understanding of the law, his quoting of authorities to support his argument. When he speaks, everybody is there with rapt attention to listen to him. No wonder they say the bull that will grow to the least status of the head can be determined the day it was born. You know that Chachichukata, even at the age of 9, was already at Mfasipim performing wonders. And he has left a record at Legon that people are struggling to equal. When he set up his first class in law, I think at the age of 16 or so, 18. At the age of 18, when some people are still even looking for crumbs from their mother's kitchen to eat, he was setting records in Legon. Right. Okay. So he was trying to say that we have given Chachi Chukata some honorable. Chachi Chukata's name will be after this trial. One of the person who will come out outstanding in this trial is Mr. Chachi Chukata, because the whole world has seen what has happened. You remember when this case started, when he went to fight for the interrogatories? You remember? What was he told? That he should wait because it was premature. He should wait. There will be opportunity for him to cross-examine Madam Jinmesa. Ally. Protocol, if I'm lying, correct me. He was told that he should wait. And that's why the interrogatories were dismissed. He should wait. There will be opportunity for him to cross-examine the witness. Ally. Where is that opportunity now?
But the respondent has decided not to give witness or evidence.
Yes, but I'm saying that is what we were told. Ally.
But at the end, she decides not to.
So if you tell somebody that me and you are doing something, and you tell me, oh, Master, you wait. When we get to where Mensa is, I will give the thing to you. Then I say, okay, I respect and I honor you. We get to Mensa's place, and I say, Master, the thing will even come again. How should I treat you?
That is for the court to decide.
You see, so exactly. So that is exactly the issue that is being raised here. That where is the opportunity now for that to be done? Unless maybe like we have Mr. Chachikata is now applying for a subpoena.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that should he have even come to a subpoena for Jean Mensah, who is the constitutionally mandated returning officer, to come and testify? She should have done so willingly, voluntarily, if there's nothing to hide. So when you see a chief running away from presiding over a meeting, he knows the matter that is coming up.
All right, Protocol, just some few words before we move to our next issue.
You see, like I said, if you listen to the optics of the NDC, you would come to the conclusion that they are not in court to win this particular election, but to win the public sympathy. You don't go to court with assumptions.
Which assumption?
You don't go to court with mathematical assumptions. That is typically what you people are doing.
I'm surprised.
At the end of the day, listen,
David, I think you should correct him. I just ask him, go and calculate on December 9th.
but you can do it.
I've calculated and I've told you that it's 50.09. If you add Techimasaf, it comes down, Nana Akufo-Addo will come down to 49.6. Go and check.
So you see, that is why.
So you didn't get the 50%.
That is why I'm saying that.
What
you
is
don't
it?
go to court with assumptions.
It should be there. It's not that one is already before
The court
court.
system deals with reality. The court system doesn't deal with assumptions.
Which assumption? Nobody's assuming anything. These are the figures of the electoral commission.
So at the
I'm
end of
not
the day,
assuming any figures.
the Techiman Saf,
Yes.
that what called Madame Jean Mensah, gave out. What's called, which were not added to the final declaration. Is it the case that the NDC still wants to hold on to that particular factor that look, even though we have physical, voter numbers in Techiman South, but Supreme Court ignore that. All that voter population give it back to NDC.
You see,
that is why I'm saying.
Let me ask you.
I'm sure that he's forgetting even his own. When you make a statement, you're analyzing the statement at the time that it was made. This is what it is.
So you see
What I say.
You see the problem. This is where the NDC continue to be sleeping. You don't go to court thinking that based on a particular declaration and certain assumptions made at that time, that particular status quo must continue. You don't do that.
I just want to ask you this basic question. Do you have a problem with Jane Mensah being in a witness box?
For me, the EC have not seen the need to mount the witness box.
Will you be okay?
Please let me.
Will you be okay?
If you would allow me, the EC have not seen any evidence for them to mount the witness box because there is no case that they think that it has a very watertight evidence that will compel them to do that. That is how come the lawyer, the counsel for the EC said that he was not, or they were not prepared to, as it were, call on any other witness to testify because based on the proceedings, they felt that the NDC have not demonstrated any compelling reason why they should come to the witness box.
Let me tell you one compelling reason. Let me tell you one compelling reason why.
Because I understand
let me tell you one compelling reason.
Consequences, please. There is a consequences if you choose not to, as it were, mount the witness box to adduce evidence. Is that not so? So if you are minded and want to say that yes, you want to win this particular election, then you should be clapping for that particular, if you like, excuse my French, stupid, advice that, the council for the electoral commission has decided to do. If it is so stupid that, why wouldn't you come and adduce evidence or to show that, yes, His Excellency, Nana Akufo-Addo actually won this particular election. If they are taking that risk, then you should be happy. So for me, I think that if they are actually calling for accountability, like I mentioned, you can subpoena her, through the Legislative Assembly for her to come and give answers to certain questions that you might raise. But you can't compel her. So I also have this particular, I don't know whether I should call it. It is the issue is that this is a particular case where the NDC also, as it were, through the council wants to, as it were, subpoena her to come and then, forcefully give a testimony. Whether or not that is sustainable, I don't know.
All right.
Because at the end of the day, don't forget that all those pleadings that they made to, as it were, compel her to mount the witness box, virtually are going to be the same authorities that they will be, as it were, quoting to be able to, as it were, make a case for that particular subpoena. So I think that the NDC is actually, as it were, running on a wild goose chase.
All right. Okay, just quickly before
David, doesn't it amaze everybody that the one who has been given the constitutional mandate to supervise, collate, and declare results. Results of which are before court and contested, decides to maintain a deaf silence and run away from saying something about the results. Is it not curious that everybody, David, you manufacture a product, exhibit the product, and people have patronized the product. People have tasted it. Some say, "Oh, David has done very well." Some people, David, after they have spoken about the product, is it not fair that David will come and tell the whole public about his product, so that people hear from David's own mouth that this is his product? He is proud of his product. David, if I do something that I'm proud of, I'm telling you, I will stick my neck out anywhere and defend my work. So this would have been an opportunity for her to defend her work and be proud of what she has done. Right. Maybe because she cannot be proud of what she has done, that's why she's running away. David, and I'm saying that this is a constitutional mandate. You hear people talking about her rights. Her rights? What about the rights of over 30 million Ghanaians who are interested in this election? Right. Whose right will supersede? Her right or the rights of 30 million Ghanaians?
Okay. All right. So I believe this is...
My brother himself, I know deep inside him, he doesn't believe what he's saying. Deep inside him, he knows that if he has the opportunity, he will ask the woman in her own honor and integrity to come and testify.
Right.
He knows it.
Okay.
But for political expediency.
All right. So I believe the Supreme Court will bring the finality to this issue as to whether J. Mensah should testify or not testify. We'll hear that on the 18th of February, when the Supreme Court, goes back to, hear the argument, the legal argument of the petitioners, whether to allow J. Mensah to be in the witness box or not. So we'll leave the matter here and then we'll move on. All right. So it's Friday, but we want to leave you on this note. There's this issue or story going around on social media, and the Daily Analyst has captured it in one of its pages. It reads, Eugene Ahin dragged to court. And then, just for those of you who are not aware, Eugene Ahin is the Director of Communications at the Presidency, and he seems to be having some issues with divorce, so he's been dragged to the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. It says, the divorce saga involving the Director of Communications at the Presidency, Eugene Ahin, and his wife has taken a new twist as Pressure Group Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, that's ASEPA, says it is petitioning the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice to investigate the corruption angle of the issue. The wife of the embattled young politician Gloria Ahin has listed several properties allegedly acquired by her husband within a space of 4 years. The properties worth millions of Ghana cedis were contained in the divorce petition filed by Mrs. Ahin at an Accra High Court demanding compensation. All right, so this is one of the biggest issues also making rounds on social media, and today it's been captured by the Daily Analyst. Protocol, how did you take this when you first heard this? And let's take it up from the ASEPA's angle, the issues about financial obligations and stuff, because the issue here has been the fact that how was he able to amass all the wealth that the wife mentioned in the suit. How was he able to acquire all those things? And that should be our point of discussion. Protocol.
I think that, thank you very much. Eugene Ahin, in his attempt to react to this particular matter, said that he respects the wife and the children, and then he was yet to be served with those particular lawsuit. And for that matter, he will react, or he would, as it were, let his lawyers respond to those particular issues, even though there were certain issues that his wife raised that, in his opinion, was not, was not the truth. And for that matter, he left it at that. I want to, as it were, also respect his opinion about that particular action and decline to make any further comment on that.
But if you look at what ASEPA is saying, that's Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, and they have petitioned, they've dragged the gentleman to Shraj based on the testimony contained in the suit, that's the divorce suit filed by her wife. From that angle, if there's anything to go by, don't you think that we should be discussing this issue, judging from the fact that from the position he occupies, 4 years, and the items listed in the suit, you don't think we should be having this discussion about how he amassed all these properties within that short period, according to the wife herself?
So that is why that is what I said initially, that I don't want to make any commentary on that, especially so when Eugene Ahin himself said that that particular story was not truthful. I mean, was not the truth. So I think that I don't mind whether any other person would want to take those particular issues on board. But for me, I would want to decline commentary on this.
Okay. Honorable.
Hey, I am amazed that my brother is declining commentary on so much a matter of public interest. Protocol. I can bet to my last CD that if this was involving an NDC person, my brother Protocol would have been at the rooftops, calling for him to be hanged, for the news to be extended to hang him. You see that in this particular matter, he's running away. You see, and I've been saying it, David. Now, when it comes to the NPP, if they can get feathers to pluck from a tortoise, what would they do when they get a fowl? You see this matter. First and foremost, let me sympathize with this thing. When you are talking, it's a problem, David.
No, we have to encourage.
Because according to you, you want to talk and even to get inside. David, let me show some sympathy first and foremost.
We can do that in 2 minutes.
To Mr. Ahin in his marriage. I'm looking at it, I'm stripping it, I'm divided into two angles. The marriage angle and then the public angle. It is not easy to be in a marriage. Sometimes you need a monumental level of patience, both the man and the woman, to be able to get two consenting adults of different characters, opinions and persuasions to harmoniously cohabitate and exist. It's a very difficult arrangement, and sometimes you need the prayers of the Almighty to keep you together. So I sympathize with my
Honorable, I have 2 minutes to wrap.
brother Ahin and listen. And I would have counseled that more patience should have been adopted by them to see how they can sort this. But there is a public angle. Look at the, in fact, and this is coming from, it's not an NDC activist or serial caller or somebody who is making this allegation so that they'll say it is political. It is partisan. This one is coming from his wife. The one he lives in the house with, the one he lived all these years, who knows everything he has done. So, David, the government said that if somebody insults you that you have a truncated waist, your wife must have told them the structure of your waist. Because she's the one who knows everything about you. Okay? So if the woman comes and says that the man has a quite huge monumental property, 16 apartments here, 16 apartments there, 2-story buildings here, another story building here. Master, you can't account. Within 4 years, because in the story, we are being told that before he became this and was working at the Danso Institute as a research fellow, his salary was pottery. He couldn't even meet his monthly this. So even at a certain point, first they were renting, then they couldn't rent again because of money problem. Then they went and they were staying with the sister of the wife. Do you hear that? And then before they got some distance to rent again, and for him to get this appointment, and then within this year, a struggling man, within this period and within 4 years, look at the properties they are mentioning. It's mind-blowing. And if this is true, as the wife has said,
right,
this is incredible. And I want to situate this. David, I beg you, give me some more time. I will take my brother's time. He said he didn't want the time. David.
2 minutes.
This is, listen to Nana Akufo-Addo. Okay? President Nana Akufo-Addo, listen to him. What did he say? He said that anybody who wants to make money should go to the private sector under his government. Do you remember, David? And that his government is not a place where anybody who wants to make money can come and make money.
Right.
Two of us. I'm sure even my brother Protocol knows that. Two, he said that he was going to operate by Annas principle. That if Annas or any evidence is given to him about corruption or people in his government, he will not even waste time. He will act. This one is not an NDC people making the allegations. So it's the man's own wife. And he attended the wedding, according to the records that we have. So he can certify that this is the man's wife. And this is the man's wife who is saying this is what the man has to acquire within 4 years. So, David, what further evidence does President Nana Akufo-Addo need? And the man is still in his office. He was telling people that those who want to make money should not use public service, should not think they can come into his government and make money. Today, they are making tons and tons of money in his government.
All right.
What is the president doing?
Because
he has never had the courage to fight corruption. Not 1 ounce. Ever since President Nana Akufo-Addo came, tell me one person that they have prosecuted successfully for corruption. Nothing.
All right.
So I am just indicating to you that, just like others have happened, he will do nothing.
Okay. But this is unfair.
Yes, I'm telling you that it has come up. Have you heard anything elsewhere? I'm coming. Elsewhere. David, you said you were not going to talk, so I beg you.
No, but
you see the man now. The man elsewhere, David, you will see that even as soon as this thing came out, some initial action would have been taken.
Okay.
Pending
further,
the outcome of further actions that will be taken depending on what investigations reveal.
All right.
Have you heard anything?
On that note, let's call it a day. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I've been in studio discussion with, we just heard the Honorable Member of Parliament for the Sagmarigo constituency, Honorable A.B. Fuseni. I was also here with Idris Salifu Protocol. He's a member of the NPP's communication team. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And that's our time will allow for this week's edition of the newspaper review segment right here on your greatest morning show on the African continent. Good morning, Africa show. My name is David Attoh, and I did this together with all the crew members here, the camera guys, those at MCR, Edem, and everybody on behalf of the regular host, Kwame, Owusu, Danso. Have a lovely week. We'll see you same time next week.